Okay, recording in progress. You're on, everybody. So I think everybody except for LV has been on a discussion before. And this is definitely not intended to be a class. So the first part of what we're going to do, I have a pretty good scaffold for, but these discussions never turn out the way I think they are, which is brilliant because this is your discussion too. So and then the second part, the second half, I'll actually share something. So it's not just going to be a free form discussion. We will actually get into a little bit more, some tools and some strategies, something new and exciting that I'm very thrilled about that I can't get to work on my website. That's what I spent the last 3 hours doing. That's why I'm a little bit frustrated right now. It's because I've been trying to bend WordPress to my will, and so far it's not working. Oh, I guess let me back up a little bit. I always do this out of order. I do want to recognize that we are all on native land. I am on Kalapuya land right now, and I am grateful that I am able to live, work, and learn on land that was stolen from the Kalapuya people. So tonight we're talking about accountability and just a little bit of housekeeping. Next month, we are meeting on January. Had this ready. I sure did. Weird. Okay. So it's first Tuesday. So that'll be January 4th, same time, same bat channel, and we'll be discussing a favorite topic, failure. Sounds great, right? Sounds like a bunch of fun. I think
sounds like a winner to me.
It doesn't sound like a super winner. I think that the little series that we're in, because we did procrastination last month, and procrastination is huge. Tonight's accountability, and then failure. So it's just like the bummer set. When you do the exit slip at the end of the discussion tonight, please feel free to choose some topics. I've got some ideas for what's going to happen in February and March, but I'm still open for stuff after that. So I think that's it for housekeeping. Anybody have anything that they want to ask before we get started? We're just going to rip right into it because we're veterans at this point. So, Joylene, I can't hear you, hun.
Sorry. You said it was January 4th for next month?
I'm going to double check myself because I don't. Yes, January 4th, same
Okay.
time, talking about
Okay.
some failure. So, hooray.
Is something going to go wrong because there'll be a failure?
Well,
I'm
it
gonna
depends on the
stop now.
perspective, right? No, don't.
I'm
That's
gonna-
what the discussion is for, right? So let's have our opening question. And it's kind of what I thought we might talk about a little bit is, when was the last time that you felt 100% appropriately accountable?
At the beginning of a partnership, to be accountable. I'm going to do this right.
Okay.
At the very beginning. Next day, it didn't go so well.
Okay. Jolene, can you remember a time that you felt perfectly accountable?
Oh my goodness, with the way this year has gone for me. Last year was awesome, even though it was the start of COVID. This year it's been pretty awful, but I would say like it's been a little bit, and I'm starting to see, the light at the end of the tunnel, but pretty much like, at the beginning of setting goals and things like that, it's like, oh, this is the goal I want. And then you set it and you're all excited for it, but then as some of the analogy that, because I've been in your meetings before, there's speed bumps in the road or, having to change gears.
Yeah, I totally agree. I I don't remember the last time that I felt like I was accountable enough, right? Like that. And now over the past 4 or 5 years, I've let the accountability go, right? So that's not a goal of mine, is to be accountable. And we'll talk a little bit about how that works, and it's not as, yeah, it's a different mindset that we'll talk about when we get to the second part. But I don't know, is the goal of the drive towards accountability, is it working? Is it okay? Candace is just saying no. Joylene is sort of knowing this a little bit. So what is the purpose of our drive towards accountability? What are we trying to accomplish with this?
I think it stems from already feeling like, not to pull in next month, but it feels like somehow or another I'm not doing what I feel like I should be doing. And so I'm going to make sure that I force myself to do it by telling somebody else I'm going to do it, and then having to look in their eyes and say, I did it halfway, or I didn't do it at all, or yay, I did it. And so I think it's a matter of pressure
Okay.
on ourselves.
So what is that pressure trying to accomplish? If accountability is applying pressure to us, what is the purpose of that pressure?
It's in a vain attempt to stop feeling like I, we, you was mishandling the situation, whatever that situation is. Or I'm going to read a book. Oh, I didn't get to it. Or whatever it is, no matter how serious it is, whatever it is that goal is, if we're not doing it and we feel like we need some additional push to make us get it done.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just speaking out of my own experience, but
well, that's all. What else are we here for?
yeah, just saying.
So I heard the pressure of accountability is its intention. What it's trying to do is handle a situation better, get things done. What else?
And one more thing is, the idea at the beginning of the accountability is to share successes and to get feedback on what strategies work and don't, and to collaborate.
Okay.
Other than that, to be a team without, I'm going to read chapter 3 and you read chapter 4 and we'll do the study guide together.
Okay.
I'm reading both 3 and 4, and then we're going to bounce the study guide questions off the other person too, or whatever the analogy is. But, it's meant as a team. But for me, it always winds up being oh shit, I didn't do it. Excuse the language, but
I think we're okay with swearing.
Yeah. I knew that was coming. Yeah. So that's my addition to it.
So and you're talking specifically about having an accountability partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That the accountability partnership would ideally, perfect world, an accountability partnership would look like sharing wins, getting feedback, collaboration, teamwork, stuff like that. Yeah. While simultaneously applying pressure. I don't help. Okay.
Yes, because maybe my experience of how I'm always trying to get myself to do more with less time and resources, leads me to take on this partnership. But I'm sure other people have, different experiences, but yes, you want it to be a team. Yes, you want collaboration and teamwork, but I always come at it from I could use some extra help there. But it's the help in my own difficulties in getting stuff done.
Okay, so we're back to that again.
And yeah,
So productivity.
Productivity.
Joylene, what thoughts do you have while you're eating your delicious and gorgeous Dairy Queen? I know what that is.
Yes. To me, when I think of accountability, sometimes kind of goes back to, childhood and being held responsible for things.
Okay.
Growing up, my dad always had chore charts. And so each of us kids would be assigned a specific task. And if something wasn't done, then they knew specifically, who, didn't do it that week. And we had to, get our chores done daily. And if not, we were held accountable for it, but also just that responsibility for doing it and stuff. And so when I think of that, oftentimes it's accountability. It just makes me think, of myself, my responsibility. Am I getting this stuff done? Am I not? Or, even with my own children, holding them responsible. So to me, it's like when I think of accountability, it's like I also think of responsibility.
Yep.
And I put the two together on teamwork, being able to check in with someone and back. And I think it's the same as kind of true when you go into a workplace or something else. It's like each of us working together as a team, we each have a job and a role to do. And so we need to be accountable for that position.
So I'm hearing from Joylene, responsibility, which is something, those two words go together kind of a lot, almost interchangeability, accountability, almost interchangeable accountability and responsibility. But I'm also hearing like there's a management aspect to this, right? There's other people relying on us, and that's like definitely pulls into the responsibility piece. So if what we're kind of pulling together, and if we had a huge group, we'd do a word cloud, which is cool. But I think what we're kind of getting towards is the purpose of holding ourselves accountable, whether that is internally or externally. It sounds like the purpose of that is responsibility, productivity, others relying on us. Yeah. What am I missing? I'm missing something.
Dependability. Well, no, that's reliability.
It's very, they're all kind of the same. So why is responsibility, productivity, salud, dependability, being able to be like managed as part of a team or a family, why are those things important?
I say they're really important because we need to function. I mean, if things need to get done, it's kind of like if you're driving your car and you see that it's on empty and you have to fill the tank up, but instead you decide to go home and I'll just do it in the morning, and you didn't really pay attention to how empty it was. You get up in the morning, you work, you might not
You
make it
following me around?
stranded on the side of the road, asking somebody to bring you some gas. So, it's, just really, you have to hold yourself responsible, I think. Some things you might be able to procrastinate with. It's like, oh, I'll get to the dishes tomorrow. Nobody's gonna really die, but if you keep putting it off and then, several days down the road and you got a huge pile of dishes, and you're kind of like, this really, sucks. Now I got, kitchen of dishes worth to wash, So I think it just depends on the importance of the situation of where you can hold yourself responsible for those tasks.
Mhm.
So it's important because we will need to be functional in our lives. Our lives need to be functional. Any other reasons
Yeah.
that responsibility, accountability, being dependable, why those things are important?
Anybody else have something? Because I have something to add, but I don't want to take up all the airtime.
There's only 3 of us talking. Leticia.
Okay.
You're here, so.
I thought there were more. So I think it has to do with the fact that we live in a society, and as a society, we are a partnership of people, and we have more tasks than any one person can do, so that society can function. And so some people have to take on this, and some people have to do that, and that's where specialization comes in, where we have, the civil protectors and such as police and fire and ambulance and all that sort of stuff. And then there's teachers, and we're responsible. We have to be accountable and responsible to ourselves, but also, if somebody is constantly calling out from work, then that makes that whole job, that whole office or group of people be not as functional. And that is, that's my analysis of why we have the accountability. Yeah, but and with something I learned a little while back is that responsibility and accountability seem like they're a lot alike, but I'm responsible for chapter 3 and you're responsible for chapter 4 in this analogy, and we're responsible for doing the study guide together. But if we have a much larger group, it's the manager, let's say, whoever that is, who is accountable to make sure it gets done. Like the police chief is accountable to the mayor, let's say. And yet each officer is responsible for X or Y. And the other one is, yeah. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like it's like accountability is the mechanism, and it's what makes it, like within our societies and families, like that division of labor thing, that so that we all understand, and we've clearly defined roles. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, and tasks that we take on. But if when we speak about accountability and responsibility, I keep thinking that accountability is overarching, and it takes in the responsibilities. It holds the people underneath, excuse the analogy, more responsible, hey, this has got to get done. But it's I'm accountable to the person above me to make sure that got done. the principal of the school has to answer to the school board to say, yeah, we've got a problem with this teacher because this teacher's not fulfilling the role of getting algebra through to the kids or, to the mass, to the class instead of just one or two. But is that making sense at all?
It is,
Or
and
is that
no, it does, because I think we're getting really big, like we're going systemic and society wide. And what I think let's do is let's turn this internal and let's focus, because really I don't know that any of us are policymakers right here. We can have full discussions about policy and compliance and that side of things, but we don't have control over that. We have control over our own selves. So I think,
okay.
Thank you for that, Candace, because that really could entirely be a whole different discussion and probably should be. We do need to hold those who we elect into office and those who are supposed to be looking after us as a society. We need to hold them accountable, right? That is part of why we have voting. But is it okay if we kind of like focus instead on like our own personal accountability?
Absolutely. Sorry to take us in the wrong spot.
No, that's okay, because that's sort of a feature, not a bug of this kind of discussion is who knows, right? But I am kind of, we could get spun off into a fairly intense rant that I would probably need to go get some wine for. And we would all feel really good about that. And there might be some crying and some flipping over of tables. But I think if we want to do some work here, which is kind of what I think we want, right? Let's bring this right down to like the space between our ears. So
Totally.
just for us. So if the purpose of accountability is, and I've been circling stuff, productivity, responsibility, and functionality. How am I doing so far? I know it's way deeper than that. We just got super in the weeds with it, but how does that sound like that is if accountability was a person, its job is getting us towards productivity, responsibility, functionality, that kind of a thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if this person called accountability, it's just doing their job. If that's the intent, what is the actual outcome of us holding ourselves accountable? Is it productivity and responsibility and functionality?
Or is it a breakdown of those things?
That's what we're talking about. It's the same.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that, Candace?
I know in the past you've mentioned that, the concept of accountability partners and trying to make yourself accountable with the whole punishment, the whole stick without carrot, and sometimes the carrots don't work and all that. But the language of obligation and trying to make yourself accountable in a non-police chief manner, is very tricky to walk that line of getting ourselves, encouraging ourselves to get that done, even though doesn't have to be done tonight. We know that sometime in the future that sink full of dishes will need to get done, otherwise they'll start growing stuff. We don't want science projects in the kitchen sink. Just saying. So, I know that for myself, I see that accountability partnerships and trying to force myself to do things just does not work for all my own reasons. And some of you are lucky enough to know what those are, maybe from personal experience. But just, if we're trying to aim for a higher or positive response, whether it's productivity or functionality or whatever, it's like accountability, putting more pressure on yourself does not always work. It depends on who the person is, but it comes under the heading of, it sounds like a great idea on paper, but in practice it's not so often. Does that
What do you
make
think,
sense?
Yeah, totally. What do you think, Darlene?
Well, with accountability, sometimes you just have to take that just do it attitude. And other times I know procrastination gets in the way.
Yeah.
But sometimes just taking those little steps, sometimes that helps to get the ball, whether it's accountability or reaching a goal, it gets the ball going, instead of looking at it as an overwhelming project where I'll never get this done, breaking it down into smaller steps sometimes helps. And if you reach that small step of one, that gives, and then you realize, oh, I held myself accountable and I can do this. And it's easier to move on to step two.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be kind of hard holding yourself accountable, but things do need to get done.
Yeah.
And breaking it down helps.
Darlene, were you with us last month for procrastination?
No, I wasn't. A lot was going on.
No, I'm not calling you out.
No,
I just couldn't
fine.
remember.
Yeah, no, I wasn't, and I missed your classes, and so that's why
okay.
I just missed it. And I was like, when I looked you up, and I go, oh, well, I'm going to sign up for these next ones. So,
well, I appreciate that you're here. Thank you. I wasn't calling you out. I'm just because you're calling back to a lot of things. Was procrastination last month or the month before? No, I don't remember. Okay.
I don't know, but I remembered I was in your meeting last year on procrastination, so it was good. So
yeah, okay. So we're not going to rehash procrastination totally, but part of that cycle is the sense of crisis, which could mean lots of things. And it doesn't have to mean stripping naked and screaming and yelling at the gas station. That's one kind of crisis, but it also is just that low level, all the time, overwhelmed. And that is almost probably chronically worse than the one-time freak out, or crying and having a panic attack at the Pickle Isle in the Winco. Maybe that's just me. So crisis is a point at which we have had some or all of our choices removed. And accountability is one of those attempts that we have to remove choices from ourselves to keep us on the path, right? Keep us going towards what we want to get done or feel like we have to get done. So my question originally was, what is the actual outcome of our attempts at accountability? And I heard several things. I heard punishment, obligation, overwhelm, pressure, just do it, which is obligation and pressure. And then kind of breaking it down, like the idea that the work needs to be done before the work can be done, that kind of idea. So what we're wanting out of accountability and what we're getting out of accountability seem like two different things. So here's what I've heard so far. What we want out of accountability. We want feedback, collaboration, reaching our goals, whatever they may be, getting help or potentially giving it, encouragement. Jillian just said, making things easier. Those are kind of all what I've been hearing, those are the things that we want out of accountability, making things easier, and collaboration. What am I missing about what we want out of accountability?
It's the joy of accomplishment.
Okay. Oh, I like the word. I like accomplishment way more than I like productivity.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that. Good reframe, Candace. All right, so those are the things that I'm hearing, that this is what we want out of accountability. This is what the accountability has promised us. And then what we are actually getting out of accountability is obligation, punishment, overwhelm, pressure, either internally, externally, that kind of a thing. How am I doing so far? And as
Can you list those three again, please?
what we're actually getting?
Yeah.
Punishment, obligation, pressure, overwhelmed. Having to do work before we can do work. So that the goal setting strategy of breaking things down into smaller tasks is a good one, and a good structure. But sometimes even that, like asking someone to break a big project down into little tiny projects, the little tiny projects that's a lot of little tiny projects, and that itself can get overwhelming too. So that sounds like what we're getting out of our attempts at accountability.
Yeah.
Give me pushback if you have it. That's I'm pretty durable.
It all resonates with me. So
Jaylene?
in terms, yeah.
I think it sounds, it sounds good. And stuff. And the reason why I said breaking stuff down into little projects is because I had my one son who just bought a house with his
Wow.
girlfriend and their family and stuff. And so it was like my whole place has been torn apart. And with moving his stuff out and then getting my other son, my 15-year-old, into finally having a bedroom for his first time in his life,
Wow.
pretty much. And stuff. And so it's just like every room in this place has been hit. And everywhere that I looked, it was like piles and everything just disorganized and, boxes, and felt like I was living in a hoarder house. And I'm like, what room do I start in?
God.
Finally, and I was going back and forth between my bedroom and the kitchen, of course, because the kitchen still has to get cleaned and things have to get done and stuff. And so I just finally said, forget it. I'm just going to settle on my bedroom and getting Angel's stuff out of my bedroom and into his room, and getting things set up before I even go back out there to, the living room and dining room and kitchen, which of course the kitchen, the dishes have to be done, but all the rest of it, because,
Sure.
with my son taking stuff out of every room where he's lived with me for many years. So every room has been touched with moving stuff around and pulling his stuff out to take with him to his home. So,
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel the accomplishments, feel nice that I finally have a bedroom, more space in it, and trying to get it organized and everything else. And so just feeling those little rewards of seeing things done, but it can also be very overwhelming. And with working full time, there are days I come home and I'm like, I'm not going to touch nothing. I know that I would feel better if some other corner was cleaned up and straightened up, but right now I just need rest. And yeah. So it's just like I've been kind of all over the place with this accountability and just, everything, that we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Sounds like it. You're definitely living it, and it sounds exhausting. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's so much more that you haven't heard from this year, Hannah. Yeah.
So what we're picking apart here, I think, is pretty important. We have some ideas in our heads about things that are just universally true. And my job is always to apply some skepticism to that, and to sort of analyze the things that we assume are true. And one of those things, as you may know, if you've worked for me for a minute of time, I cannot stand the wants versus needs analysis. This is just an example. And this is, it ties into accountability, but not really. I'm just picking out it because I hate it so much. But the reason I hate it is because it is supposed to do something for us and it doesn't do that thing. But it's because it's the only tool we've ever been given. We keep doubling down and thinking that we're just not doing it right. And accountability, attempts at accountability they follow along the same sort of path. So what if we are wanting accountability to do for us, which we've pretty clearly figured out here, making things easier to do, encouragement, collaboration, accomplishment, that kind of a thing. And what it's actually doing, we've been sold a bill of goods on this accountability bullshit, right? Like but we keep doubling down. I just need to hold myself accountable. I just need an accountability partner, right? And that is just for our normal functionality. If we really want to make a change, let's begin exercising, 4 times a week, or spend 15 minutes a day cleaning, or read a book, or crochet something, right? If we want to make a change to our behavior and we leverage accountability, we tend to duplicate the same things that we've saw every single time we try to use accountability. That's the obligation, punishment. We can get into shame and judgment. Those are my words, of course, pressure, getting overwhelmed by the smallest things and running out of energy, running out of bandwidth, running out of time. So let's take that original thing that we want accountability to do, and let's ask a question. Is accountability, is efforts at accountability, is that the only way to get to encouragement, accomplishment, making it easier, collaboration, teamwork, community? Is that the only way?
I had a professor that once said, there's always a solution, Candace. And he also said, but where there's one solution, there's always another.
We stop looking after the first one, don't we?
You always, when you lost your keys, you always find them in the last place you look.
That's the very last one, yeah. So so I'm hearing Candace say that no, this might not be the only way to get towards accomplishment, encouragement, making our lives easier.
I don't think so. I think accountability, that, of course, may be the word, but I think sometimes when we think of accountability, we think of it more as a chore or a job, and taking a different approach to it, and really finding the want or the need behind the whole thing. Because if you look at it as a chore, then that might be the last thing that you want to really do. And it's just easier to bed. But looking at it as a different thing, bring in joy or happiness or desire or, something else behind it, it might give you more energy and more, strength and to want to do the whatever it is, to hold yourself accountable for it. There's, you can always wake up and say, oh, another day, I got to go to work today. And you're sitting here already before you're even out of thinking of the 10 things you need to do in the next hour. And just straining all that energy from instead of waking up and being happy and looking, oh, that, it's a beautiful sunrise this morning. And, just bring in happiness into that day. And so then when you get to work already, you're feeling happy, cheerful, and you may have another whole outlook on the day. So I think there's two ways of looking at it. So I think
I like
there
that.
is then accountability for using that title.
I like that. So I'm hearing other ways that we can get to that place of accomplishment, and encouragement might be mindset is what you're kind of talking about, right? And choosing to be happy, building in some joy. Can you guys think of any other ways to get towards a place of accomplished productivity? No, let's what do we call it? I don't know, effortless productivity. Effortless. No, I'll come back to that. What are some other ways that we can get there without the drive, without the pressure of accountability?
I think Joylene is right about the reframe.
I think so too.
And well, I think you're right, Hannah, about sometimes breaking that big task into 20 small tasks is, whoa, maybe not what we need to do, at least not for me. Not always anyway.
Not always, yeah.
Just maybe understanding that have you ever asked somebody who's a little bit more senior than all three of us, hey, how you doing today? Well, I'm on the right side of the dirt, you know. I'm
That's
not
good
stuffed in a
perspective.
casket. It's kind of like, yes, sir, that's right. You're right here. You're with me. We're having a conversation about you not being dead. Of course, you know, you don't say all that, but you know, yes, sir, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I'm having a good day too until I talk to you. But it's the total reframe of, well, things must be going well. I just saw a rainbow or something of that nature, which I love rainbows, so don't get me wrong. Maybe focusing on not just that random thing of, hey, I saw a rainbow or the sunrise was beautiful, but thinking about, wow, I did the dishes before the science experiment had a chance to start. You know, because or if I do the dishes now, then I don't have to look at that sink full of dishes in the morning. Ooh, I kind of like that.
So-
If I have an early morning appointment and I take my shower tonight, I won't have to rush. What were you
So
going to say?
focusing on the accomplishments, focusing on the results of those accomplishments. I like that. Jolene also said, and I wrote it down, but didn't mention it, but the thinking about the why, like why we're doing this thing or want to do this thing. I like both of those things. So we're at just after the 45-minute mark. So I do want to take a break because I respect bladders. While we're on a break, let's take like a 5-minute break. While we're on a break, I kind of want you to come back with an idea or two of what it might look like if you were, and this is what I've landed on, kind of effortlessly productive. What would your life look like? So we'll be back in about 5.
Okay.
Okay. Have a fun break.
Nothing happened. I got up and moved around and you didn't move. And then I sat down and was still, and there was a startling noise. What? Nothing happening. Nothing. You can go right back to sleep. It's all good. Nothing going on. You're fine.
I am.
You're fine too. Everybody's fine. We're all good.
I was hoping that you'd think that I was Daisy speaking back to you.
Yeah, she was giving me that face like, what was that? It was nothing.
Yeah.
There literally nothing happened. Not a thing.
Right.
But you never know.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Go right back to sleep.
Okay.
So what you guys come up with? What would your life look like if you could be effortlessly productive?
Joyful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that.
A lot less stress.
I feel like I'd be more productive.
Yeah.
Like I could be like exponentially more productive if it was effortless, if there was less friction around it.
Yeah, more organized and healthier.
I love that. Okay. I do want to make sure that I invite LV to speak if I believe I know who this is, if they are willing to, but I understand why you can't. So I just want to make sure that I put that out there and we're not leaving anybody out. So what I thought we might do is to kind of first talk about sort of the underlying structure of why accountability doesn't work as well as we think it should, but why we also continue to try to use it over and over again, why we keep doubling down on it. I'm going to bring up some slides. This comes from basically the world of case management, from social work, people working in worlds where the people that they are working with are not voluntary, specifically like juvenile detention, prisons, jails, that kind of a thing. But I think it's translatable out to all of us. So give me 2 secs here to get this guy ripping.
Is he going to be rapping as he's ripping?
What?
Is he going to be rapping as he's ripping?
Who's rapping and
Is he going to
ripping?
be talking?
Who?
This guy that you're trying to get ripping.
Oh, no, it's just slides. It's just a guy is just me, just my word for that. What are we doing here, Zoom? Zoom, please. Let's try that again. There we go. So
There it is.
Okay, everybody can see the consent continuum?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So consent is something that we hear a lot about in terms of like sexual relationships, intimate relationships, but it is important to kind of think about consent in all parts of our lives. And for the first part of this, it's going to be mostly external. So think about like a social worker working with somebody in juvenile detention is kind of what this is. We're going to take that pattern and map it onto our own lives in a second. So what tends to work best is consent. And this is absolutely mandatory in intimate partner relationships. So consent is freely given. It's given with the full knowledge of the consequences, processes, risks, and values, right? So consent is, what is it? Fries, freely given, revocable. I can't remember the other. So consent, sorry. You step just off of consent and you get into something called compliance. This is where consent is still given, but it's not freely given. It's given with reluctance. So the person, and in this example of somebody, let's say in juvenile detention, is engaging in activity in order to please or not disappoint someone, their parents, the admin, whatever. So compliance is not consent, even if we are reluctantly making a choice And then we step again to the right and we are talking about pressure. Again, consent is given, but not freely. It's given with, again, reluctance, and we are engaging in activity through the use of bribery, punishment, shame, judgment, manipulation, implied threats, sense of duty. We all know this boss, right? So this is where a lot of like the beginning of some very toxic relationships happens here. Step to the right again, and we have coercion. And this is where permission is not given. So they're not giving their consent, but they are still engaging in an activity through the use of bribery and punishment again. And I want you to hear bribery and punishment as punishments and rewards. These are direct threats of violence, physical violence or harm. So verbal violence is a good way to think about this. So that's coercion. And then all the way to the right is force. And again, permission, consent is not given, and someone engages in an activity through the use of physical violence and harm. That's where waterboarding lives. So as you move from left to right through this continuum, what they see is that there is, and this seems very, very obvious, they see an uptick in rebellion and resentment. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Like the further that you move away from someone making a choice of their own free will, you're going to get more and more rebellion and resentment. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. You can map it. It's very, very, very consistent. What they see trend down is any ability for long-term change. Their motivation tanks, their available choices, and their sense of autonomy. So let's pause here right now. What echoes are you hearing here that we've talked about in the first part of the discussion?
The more we try to force ourselves, the more we rebel. The less long-term change you have,
Yeah,
because
even
you
if
feel
we
like
are
you've lost autonomy.
even if you're the one that's removing your own choices.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It has the same effect on us, probably worse, if we are removing our own choices. And that's where like some limits can be a good thing and can sometimes spur creativity, but sometimes placing undue limits on ourselves can shut us down too. And there's always going to be rebellion and resentment, even if it's for ourselves. A great example of this is anytime that you try to go on a super, super, super restrictive diet. Who put that restriction on you? I did, right? I put that restriction on. That doesn't mean I'm not going to eat the whole cheesecake. I still, if you think about it that way, the rebellion and resentment is cheesecake, right? That's me eating an entire cheesecake and not giving a damn about that, right? Because I deserved it. I worked really hard, right? So the rebellion, the resentment, that kind of a thing. So I love how perfectly this maps into our own attempts to make long-term behavior change for ourselves, is that what we try is go. Oh no, go back. Nope, not there. Don't look. Don't look. So I changed this to the choice continuum, because as you move from left to right, there's the reduction of choices as they go. And if you remember back to that crisis cycle from procrastination, crisis is a reduction or removal of choices. And it doesn't matter if somebody did that to us or we've done it to ourselves. We're looking at exactly the same thing as what crisis is. And of course, as we move from left to right, we are increasing the level and likelihood of trauma. And again, and because I'm the financial coach, I have to say this, we can absolutely traumatize ourselves. Long-term, over time, in small ways and in big ways, we can traumatize ourselves. And money is one of the ways that we can traumatize ourselves the best, even though we're not talking about money today. So what surprises have you had so far, just as we've been talking about the choice continuum? If any.
Oops.
No surprises?
Sorry, I'm trying to switch something. I think I recognize myself here.
Where?
The whole, I'm trying to pressure myself, so I sign up for accountability partners. And yeah. So you're entirely right, but, and I'm just saying it for the record because you know this. That I'm rebelling against myself. Yeah.
Yep. And of course you do. Of course you rebel
Yeah.
against yourself.
Yeah, because that's productive.
But it's also natural. Like that is not the rebellion against having our choices removed, whether or not we're doing it to ourselves or somebody else is doing it to us. That's not a defect. That's an important feature of our brains. And the
Yeah.
reason choice is important, and you could read choice, you could also sub out autonomy, same thing. The reason choice is important is this picture. So this is a hyena in probably their last minutes of life, surrounded by 5 wild dogs. So tell me about the choices that this hyena has available to them.
Yeah.
Not many, right?
Mm-mm.
That hyena's brain is on fire right now, right? This is what our brains do when we have choices removed. And that's the natural full functioning. This is our brains functioning normally. Another way to think about this is toddlers. What happens? What happens if you remove choices from a toddler? Do they respond to that in a measured and appropriate way? Or do they lose their minds?
They throw their fits and their tantrums and have a lot.
Lose their little minds. Why? Why are they doing that? Because we have removed their autonomy. And that is, again, that's normal. I mean, I think some of us, maybe just me. I'm going to go ahead and mute you for a little bit, Candace.
Oh, thank you.
Again, this is normal. I don't want anybody to think like, why am I freaking out? It's because that's what your brain is supposed to do. This is survival. Like our brains don't know the difference between what this hyena is going through right now and us in long-term chronic removing our choices over time, leveraging things like pressure and coercion on ourselves. Our brains are doing what the hyena is doing. I teach a whole class with this part of it, and we're going to move past it pretty quickly, but the wild dogs also don't have a whole bunch of choices either. They have a different kind of pressure. So yeah, there is no difference between a reduction of choices and crisis. And it doesn't have to be a complete removal of choices. It can just be a reduction. So here's some conventional accountability tools. We've talked a little bit about these. I need an accountability partner. I just have to force myself through this, making a public commitment. I just need to stick to my whatever. There's the just do it thing. I can't trust myself in Costco. Once I get this done, then I can do something fun. There's some reward punishment. Reward punishment too on the lower left. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So now I can't do the fun thing. We're not going to talk about everything here. This is part of a much larger class. We're just going to kind of talk about these two. This is kind of a theme we've come back to a couple of times. The idea of an accountability partner or holding ourselves accountable by making a public commitment or even just an internal commitment. I'm going to get this done, right? So here we are back at the choice continuum. Where is that kind of accountability on the choice continuum? Where would you put it?
Coercion.
Candace is
Or
going
pressure.
big time. All the pressure.
Yeah, somewhere in between those two.
Yeah. I was being pretty gentle when I was putting these slides together, and I just chose compliance, but it could be compliance pressure or in some cases coercion, depending on how badly you're beating yourself up. But when we are trying to, especially if we bring somebody else or make public an accountability commitment, we are leveraging the threat of embarrassment. And the threat of embarrassment is not to be understated. It is part of our tribal little brains that think we need to be part of our tribe and we don't want to look like ding dongs in front of our tribe. So that we are leveraging the threat of looking like a ding dong. That's the technical phrase. But yeah, pressure as well. Absolutely, Candace, the reluctance to, I'm sorry, the bribery, punishment, shame, judgment. We are weaponizing shame against ourselves. Embarrassment. We're going to drop out of this. Don't look. So there's some background information. What has resonated with you so far? Not just through the last slides, but all total. What so far tonight has resonated with you?
I've done a lot of talking, please, if you wish, Jolene, instead of my taking it up again.
If you have something that's resonated, you might not.
Yeah, sorry. I guess that was I think the idea of looking at it for the, what can I do to prevent the unwanted thing when it's not tied to the, oh my gosh, I'm making a fool of myself, or a ding dong, excuse me, technical terms.
Ding dong. It's a technical term, yeah.
Yeah. So instead of focusing on the avoidance of the embarrassment, it's the avoidance of the negative science project in the sink. My sink is not that bad anymore. The stars are on that. And Jolene is like, holy cow, what is this lady? But anyway, it doesn't matter. So I think that the cognitive leap I've had tonight that's resonated with me is how to push past the pressure and coercion by the reframe, not of that wondrous rainbow that just happened to be there. It's the intentional, I'm going to prevent this thing that I don't want in my life by taking this simple action. A stitch in time saves 9.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So getting proactive about it instead of being reactive.
Yes.
Jaylene, I
Sorry,
see you making.
I'm saying that as if it sounds like I'm saying that as if you finally figured it out. No, that is the exact word I needed to hear. Thank you.
You said it. I just made other words.
Yeah.
I see you making thinking face though, Joylene. I want to get into your brain. What's going on?
Well, I just been looking at myself from this year compared to last year when I was here with you and stuff, and about I could still do just kind of putting the pressure or shame at the moment while I'm speaking right now, even do better. But I'm also just so proud of myself that I have come further than I was last year. I am more, like you said, proactive, and just looking at things, differently. Of course, there are still days where there's those old habits where, you try to sit there and, I really need to do this, or I should have done that. And so you're, kind of shaming myself. But also, like I said, there's been things that I have, done more, and I've come a ways. And so it's really just taking those, different steps at different times and trying to look at things differently.
Oh, I love that. I love that. you have a perspective change, but you can also, you have perspective on the perspective change. Like you can see the changes that you've made, and yeah, change is hard and it sucks. And yeah, the old demons are always there in the background going, yes. But
Yes.
I love that you see that, and that you were bringing it home and celebrating that. I hope you're proud of yourself. I never say that right. So the last thing that I thought we'd share, I think we have enough time, is something that I've been sort of working on, and I'm almost there. I wanted to have it ready to give to you guys tonight as a beautiful gift, perfectly gift wrapped with a big bow on top, and WordPress is not allowing me to do that. But we're going to talk about sort of the bones of this idea. And this is not my original idea. I have adapted this from someplace else. So let me bring this up real quick. So what I kind of want to talk about is the idea of, instead of an accountability partner, is about bringing into our lives a champion. And a champion is very different than an accountability partner. Ideally, this is someone that you want to spend more time with, that you like. I have heard from people who choose accountability partners that are sort of taskmasters, right? Like, she's got her shit together, so I'm going to make her get my shit together. And it doesn't ever, it never works. It never works. So becoming a champion for someone takes some training, and that's what I've been trying to put together. So I've got a workbook, I've got a video, I've got an article. And what's going to happen is I'll be putting this up on the website, and then I will send you the link to that. And it's not available on the, if you're just navigating through the website, you're not going to find it. It's a secret, super secret, special one just for you. So we're going to talk about, so what you're looking for in a champion is someone who is, first, who likes you, and someone who's curious. The idea of curiosity, having that pull. I don't know if you've ever talked to someone who's curious about what you are and who you are and what you do. But curiosity is the lack of, it's selfishness and it's unselfishness. Like if you meet someone, you talk to someone and they're curious about you, you're drawn to them, but they want to know everything about you. They're being selfish because they want to know you. So if your goal is to clean house 15 minutes a day, your champion is curious about how that's going, right? Not in even like a check-in sort of a way, but like, what are you doing? Like, how is that going? What's working and what's not working? That sort of curiosity and openness to pull us out. And I think that takes a little bit of practice, especially if we've been accountability partners for each other before. Like it takes a little bit of time to untangle it. That's what that video is for, is to kind of really deeply understand why curiosity is important. I'm pulling up some slides, potentially. We'll see. So this is the workbook, maybe.
It's still a surprise. It's all
It's still a
white.
surprise. This is going great. This is fantastic. What is,
You know what
it's
that
because I was
does?
on the.
That gives
was a
us the
failure.
opportunity. That gives us the opportunity to have you surprise us later too.
There you go. There
So
you go.
this is the workbook that comes along with the champion training. And this is the idea is that you go into the world and find yourself a champion, and then they do some training. It takes 20 minutes. It's not forever. And then they are better able to move with you along the pathway to whatever it is you want to accomplish. And it doesn't have to be a big one-time goal. It could be something that you need to accomplish daily, like building a new habit. But it could also be like Joylene has a big project that hopefully you only have to do one time in your life, like that, like reconfiguring your whole household is a big deal. So here I'm talking about the attributes of a champion. They're curious, they are non-judgmental, and I will not allow it, even though I would have no impact on this conversation or relationship. that there is no such thing as judgmentalness. There's no shame, no judgment, no remorse, no bringing up the past. And so in each of these, I have prompts. So some prompts to encourage curiosity would be, tell me more about, what did you learn this week? Can you show me that again? Like if someone's like learning a task. Non-judgmental, this is just a new starting point, because as we try to accomplish these, whatever we want, there's probably going to be fits and starts. That's just normal. So this is just a new, reminding you, your champion would be in charge of reminding you that this is just a new starting point. And sounds like you found a process that doesn't work. That's important, right? If we're curious and we're being experimental with this, it's important to find out what's not working. So I'm going to pick on you, Jolene. Let's say you try to let's say you try to make this part of your normal morning routine. Like every morning, I'm going to wake up 15 minutes early and work for 15 minutes on the house. But for one reason or another, you find that that doesn't work. That's important information. Morning doesn't work, right? What might work? What might work better for you? Another attribute of a champion is that they help us reflect. So they aren't really contributing a lot back to us, but they are just simply reflecting back what's going on. So sounds like that's really important to you. This was a tough week. It would be weird if you are not stressed out, right? So this kind of always accepting, always reflective, always curious sort of person. Through the training and through the workbook, I walk through some very, very basic goal setting strategies. Questions like, what is your goal? Like, why are we talking? What do you want? What's going on? Why is that important to you? What would your life look like if this goal is completed? Are they starting to sound familiar to you? These are all questions that I've asked tonight. What steps have you already taken to get there? And that is something that Jolene was talking about, is understanding the accomplishments and the steps that we've already taken. It's really, really important to bring those home. What are some external things that could change or derail your progress? We don't often like to talk about that, but it can happen.
Visualization.
Negative visualization right there, like thinking ahead about bad stuff and ways that we could prevent or recover from it. And this last question is my favorite question of all times, this important 3-part question. What is it within you that you have control over that is standing in your way the most? That is the controllable obstacle. And that's everything. That's every client that I've ever worked with. I've asked this more than a couple times. Like, this is probably the most important thing. So, I mean, imagine you're working with your champion. They would be walking through these goal setting strategies. You guys would come to some sort of agreement about when you're meeting or checking in. Then there's things like, and this is all like, this is not mandatory. People can absolutely change it, adapt it, make it your own. Visit notes. So just a way to keep track of things. What is the biggest thing you've learned so far? What's working for you? What's not working for you? And then, and we've talked about this a couple times, an accomplishment log, big or small. Let's write down the accomplishments. If getting out of bed today was an accomplishment, then we're writing it down. So here we are hearing that word accomplishment instead of productivity, right? What questions do you have about the workbook itself or the idea of a champion?
Wow.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
So is that a certain class that you're doing on that then? Or
Not yet. Right now, it's just this and the video. But I need to get my website figured out. Then it will probably end up being a class or like a series, like a group class of us all doing this for each other, like being champions. So being champions for another person and also being championed by another, you know what I'm saying? So this thing has legs and it will probably grow over time. What you're seeing is the very baby. You guys get to be my guinea pigs. But
Do you have ugly
I-
sweaters for us? Because I saw some
I-
of that smart.
is that guinea pigs have ugly sweaters? Oh, that's sort of extra sad. They're already a little pitiful. So what do you guys think about this idea of a champion replacing an accountability partner? And this is doing a slow
But-
clap. Okay.
It's a fast clap, but I didn't want to like hog the microphone. Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of? When I was walking around the architecture studio, waiting for the glue on my model to dry. I'd go to the year before under me, not under, but you know, the second year, the first year, and tell me about your project, you know, what you doing? And, you know, well, have you thought about this? And not giving the answers, but asking questions, being curious, being non-judgmental. Oh, I see that you have this move. What prompted you to use that colored chipboard as opposed to sticks? You know, because we're talking about architectural models. What prompted that choice? What, you know, and what I see here is, and were you thinking about that?
Mhm.
You are
These
so
op-
on target, Hannah.
Beautiful open-ended questions. There's one part of this that I didn't mention that is critical, is that the person that you choose as a champion cannot already be a master in whatever it is you want.
Oh,
So this is not mentorship, and that's really critical. So if for some reason I'm thinking a lot about house cleaning, like if you want to build into your habit, like cleaning house for 15 minutes a day, your champion cannot be someone who is already a master at cleaning their own house. Because one, you're going to find way more people in the world who aren't masters, and two, it's not required. This is not mentorship. This is not coaching, right? So this is different from even like what I do. So the purpose of this is literally just somebody to do the things that we were talking about, which lined up perfectly, like you guys were reading from a script. Now we're talking about collaboration, making things easier, encouragement, accomplishments, right? All of the things that we said that we wanted from holding ourselves accountable at the beginning is something that a champion could help you with. And I know one of you works with other human beings in a mentorship or advocacy capacity. This is something that I think that the champion mindset, which is something that you've both talked about quite a bit tonight, the mindset or perspective change to be thinking about this from a champion, not from an expert perspective, not from a directing perspective, but from the focus of being curious and asking those good questions. So I will, I'm going to work on the webpage over the next couple of days. I'm not going to make any timeline promises because I have no idea what I'm doing. So I am learning as I go with that. So I beg your graciousness with that, but I will, as soon as that is ready and it works, I will send it to you, and then do test it out. Like, find someone in your life who could act as a champion for whatever it is you want, and teach them how to be your champion, and then you go be somebody else's champion too. So that's, I think that this has some good structure to it that is positive and trauma informed and very, very choice rich. So I'm going to put into the chat, because I don't want to run you guys too much over on time, even though we do every single time. I don't care. I like it.
that's
I'm gonna-
too much fun.
It is. I always want to make them 2 hours, but I don't, because I know that some people want to go to sleep, and the three of us that have been talking tonight are all in the same time zone, but LV is most certainly not in our time zone and has been very gracious to be here tonight.
Thank you, LV.
Thank you, LV.
Thank you, LV. The exit slip is in chat. You've both seen something very similar before. I really encourage you to fill out that exit slip. But I also want to hear your voices now too. So what are 3 things that you need clarification on?
You were saying that reduction of choices. And then I think there was a mathematical sign in there, maybe resembling the equal sign of crisis. Reduction of choices equals crisis, or leads to, or
It's the
does
same
it?
thing. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a reduction of choices is the same thing to our brains as crisis. It's not like one leads to the other. They are effectively the same thing. I mean, but crisis does remove choices, and choice, it goes back and forth. It's such a tightly bound spiral that there's no difference between the 2 things.
Huh.
So I am the financial coach, so I'm going to ask this, but how could you see something that we talked about tonight influencing or changing your financial life?
The whole of everything, or the championship, or the
Kid, you pick.
I for me, repetition is really heavy and excellent. And I've heard some of this before from you, Hannah, and a little bit from other people, but it's so on target from you. And I have to say that what has been presented here tonight has actually cemented some things for me about the proactive instead of reactive. And then I made a cognitive leap about, don't worry about the subduction zone, prepare for it. Don't live on the bottom floor, live on the top floor in case the roof caves in so you can camp inside your apartment. Get out that tent. Which is,
Isn't it? Anxiety is an amazing tool sometimes.
There's a certain level of paranoia that's good, but that's not the discussion here. The discussion here is being proactive instead of reactive. I want to prevent the science project in my
kitchen, in your sink.
So I'm going to do this. Okay. And then I brought it forward to, oh, wait, I could think about it like this in this other cognitive win for me. So I have made some cognitive leaps that can help me understand myself and about, where coercion and force and pressure and threatening embarrassment really do bring in rebellion and the crisis brain. And it's this is all just me talking about myself, but I see that if anybody, I guess, who looks like me and has my experience, but that'd be just me. But
yeah.
but I also think that about the champion, I think you're to flip onto that. I think that not having it be a mentor or a coach or a master of, it's, maybe somebody who's a little bit further ahead, in 3rd year instead of 2nd or 1st year, who has a feeling of how the questions can be asked. There goes that training. And then to help the person find their own answer.
Mhm.
You know,
And the champion doesn't have to have any desire to do. I mean, it's okay if they do want, like, if I want to learn to play the violin, my champion should not be even someone who's 2 weeks
virtuoso.
ahead of me. Right. And my champion doesn't even have to want to learn how to play violin. like that's cool. That they just need to be curious and accepting, and they need to ask those good open-ended questions, but they don't have to like care one lick about it. But the idea is that they would be caring about me learning about playing the violin, right? That's the, so I think it's okay to, because this is more about the communication and the connection and that relationship than it is about the thing. So that's why we don't need our champions to be competent in whatever that thing is, or even like versed. If somebody wants to study quantum mechanics, I could still be their champion, right? I don't need to have, I can't, not a thing. I don't want to know anything about it. It'll hurt my
Yeah.
brain. But
But
like
you're invested in that person's success.
precisely,
For
like I'm
whatever
there,
reason.
right. There for them. I don't need to have any understanding, and I can still ask questions and they can still say all the words and say all the smart things. And absolutely understand that I don't understand it, but I don't need to. I just need to be encouraging and supportive and curious of their process through that. So,
And you're giving them
So-
space to come to their own cognitive leaps.
yep. And to find out what works for them and what doesn't, right? Because everybody is processed through clean sinks, violin playing, and whatever, like exercise and eating right. Everybody's pathway looks different and changes all the time. And we need to allow for that flexibility. So Joylene's making thinking face. And so I want to know what's going on in Joylene's head again.
Yeah, no, I just love this champion idea that you're come up with and have done, because, a lot, I always get so much out of your classes, even if it's in a class that I've been before, because there's always new people in the classes and new ideas that come along with it and process and stuff. And it's like, I know that I've learned in the past and learned today and stuff. And it's just like, I just want to continue taking those steps. And like I said, right now, everything's been torn apart, but I've just been trying to learn how to, take a step back, and what I can get done today, I get done today, and not sit there and beat myself over the head, over it, that I didn't get more done, and that there's always a tomorrow, and stuff. And yeah, I could probably get the house, more organized or put together quicker, but I know that this next year, at some point, I should be buying a house. And so it's
Wow.
the time, with everything torn apart, now's the time to go through and just get rid of stuff that I don't want, and continue organizing or packing stuff away and stuff. And so it's a whole process. So I'm just like, nope, it'll get put together. And now's the time to just, clean house along the way. If I got to put it back together, I might as well, clear through stuff too,
I think that's a great idea.
Because once, we do move, there will be hopefully, less to take with us, and it'll be the more meaningful things to take with us, into a new place. So,
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah. I like that you're saying this as an opportunity.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally proactive.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, it's been a year with COVID and everything else, still trying to be, still, trying to get into physical therapy, still trying to do, the whole 9 yards. And so it is what it is. And I decided, it's time to, not only, work on house, getting a new place, but also, trying to work on my health as well. And so, I got a health coach, and so it's a process. So I'm just not trying to beat myself over the head too much for what I can't do, you know, that I want to do. You know, it's just one day at a time.
And we'll talk about this a bunch next time when we talk about failure. But the shame is deeply, deeply wired in our heads. And I don't want to generalize, it's there for everyone, but women especially, like a lot of our value is tied to the things that we've talked about tonight. Men, almost a stupid generalization, but productivity and a man's value is deeply rooted. But that we'll talk about next time, shame as part of failure, like what you're talking about, beating yourself up. Then we can beat ourselves up for beating ourselves up for beating ourselves up for beating ourselves up, and then we're off, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing's gonna get done.
Keep going.
And we're back. And that's where that goes, like pressure, coercion, force, right? That's all of that down there where we're trying to beat ourselves up to achieve washing the dishes, right? Like, so
Yeah.
and that's a lot of work. And I think what we've talked about tonight is there are other ways to get stuff done, to get accomplishments done, to be productive without the accountability, without the shame, without the threat of being seen as a ding dong, right? Like just maybe be a ding dong. I don't know. That's what I do. But I will say that as I've developed the curriculum over the past 5 years or so, and as of course, I'm my first client and I'm my worst client, because I always try these things out on myself first, the letting go of that sense of shame has been the hardest thing to let go of. And it is really hard work to untangle that, because it's sort of been sold to us that that's kind of the only way to do stuff, is to beat the crap out of ourselves. And it's not, right? Holding ourselves accountable and leveraging the threat of being seen as a ding dong is not the only way to get towards accomplishments either. And we've talked about a bunch of different ways tonight. Champion is one of them, but we've also talked about like reframing things and having a mindset change, perspective change, and building joy and delight into our lives. Like there's a whole bunch of other ways, but we get clicked into that crisis of thinking that this is the only way to do that. And then we double down. So that just went off on a little tangent. Sorry. But, yeah. So I'm keen to keep talking for as long as you guys want to talk. If something's coming up for you that you want to discuss a little bit, I'm not going to kick anybody out. I will ask that you do the exit slip. That is tremendously helpful to me. Just making sure that it's actually working. Or I should have probably checked that first, but I think it's probably live. So should take just a couple of seconds. And then I have not posted the discussion on failure yet. It'll go up on Eventbrite after I'm done fighting with my website about the champion thing. And so that should probably be within the next week. And then you can just find it on Eventbrite or find it on the webpage. Yeah, the class on Thursday next is this is the Train the Trainer class. What are we talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
I forget what
We're
that
talking
subject
about-
is.
Me too. And it's my thing. Hold on. I'm going to go to my own website real quick.
I believe it was big changes, big risks.
Oh, there you go. Gold star. Yeah. Talking about
Jolene is
now-
paying attention. That's awesome.
Jolene's on it.
It's on my calendar, my work calendar. So
We're going to be talking about some negative visualization tools to help people navigate through changes, whether they're making a change or choices being made for them. It ties very nicely into the stuff we've been talking about tonight. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you all there. It's definitely designed for other trainers and coaches and advocates. It's going to be it's going to be a little one direction. It's going to be a class. There's less discussion, more class. So
Okay.
okay.
you've all both of you have been, Candace and Jolene have been to those. So yeah, kind of understand. But Letitia, if you want to join us, actually, that might be a better time for Leticia if she can join, if this is who LV is. I'm making an assumption here about who I know who this is. Yeah. So what other feedback do you guys have about the topics we talked about? Anything still rolling around in your head?
I think I just want to say this before I get distracted and don't get to say it. Joylene, thank you for being patient while I talk, and Letitia talk as well. But I've really gained perspective in having more than just my voice talking. So, anyway, there's that.
Thank you.
No worries, and thank you so much. It's been good to hear the stuff that you have gave input on too, Candace. It helps, having a few of us here.
Yeah. So
It is much nicer to just not have me shouting into the void.
Yeah.
yeah.
And anytime that you're here with us, Leticia, just feel free, if you're not able to speak on speaker, give input in the chat. I like your comment. Saw that.
Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of echoes to what you guys have been saying. And then, yeah, it's really cool. I'm super excited. I don't know why I'm excited to talk about failure next time, but let's do it. Let's talk about failure.
Because
Yes.
failing forward is not just some catchphrase of tomorrow. It's actually a mindset, in my opinion.
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
Well, okay, I could be wrong.
We're going to
but
talk about
yeah,
it.
there's that.
Of course I have thoughts. I've been screaming into the void about this. Yeah, we can leverage failure. It's
Yeah.
super cool.
All right.
It actually ties in with the negative visualization too. So I won't keep you if you need to go, but
And the feedback is just that link in the chat. And okay, awesome.
and then you guys can hold me accountable. I will get you the link to the champion training. The second that it's done, it will be in the email box to all three of you. And I'll send this recording. Probably not tonight. I'm pretty burned out, I'm pretty tired. But I'll send you the link to this recording tomorrow. So
That'd be lovely. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
okay. Thank you for being here, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having this, Anna. This is great.
It's absolutely my pleasure. This is for me. You guys I'm delighted to talk to you every single time. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to check out and not put my finger over the camera, and y'all have a lovely night.
I'll do that.
You too.
TTFN.
All right.
Have a good night,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Good night. Thank you guys.
Good night.
Good night.